With sports coming back to our life, we're all back to wearing our gear again, right? That's what we're doing. We're wearing our gear. But nothing says wearing your gear more than repping your team, right? You got to rep your team. And all your sports for the first time ever are starting now. But have you ever wondered what goes on behind the scenes with sports memorabilia and all that fun, jazzy stuff that your loved ones are always asking for? And you're like, why am I paying that much for a jersey? Hey, but anything with Derek Jeter's names on it is worth it. Just kidding. Any sports memorabilia is awesome. But today we're going to go behind the curtain to the sports memorabilia world and learn a little bit more. Find out these details coming up next. So, the sports memorabilia world. But first, I'm Eric Mitchell, and this is To The Point. Got a good one for you. You know I love my sports. But have you ever really put it together on what goes on when it's the sports world, right? Like, how does the sports world function around here? Like, what are we doing to make the sports world go? It's memorabilia, baby. Besides showing up the games, we all buy our favorite former athletes' stuff. But have you ever wondered how this all started and became this huge thing? Well, we have an amazing guest today. Brandon Steiner, that's right, you've heard that name before, is a sports memorabilia, sports agency, sports marketing guy that's second to none. Go on his website. How many people do you know have the great Michael Jordan and Derek Jeter, just to name a few, giving testimonials? That's a pretty, I mean, come on. You're like, just mic drop. Those are my testimonial people. That's huge. And you throw in Gary Vee, you have a pretty good day on your website. So anyways, we're going to have an amazing guest today. Going to talk about this world, the world of sports marketing. As sports jumps back in and just absolutely kicks off. For the first time ever, we have all our sports going to be going at once. It's like the trifecta, that one day in like October where all sports collide, where you have the NBA, NFL, and even Major League Baseball going. Add in hockey and Major League Soccer. It's crazy. It's 5 sports in one. And I know, be proud of me, I counted on my hand all by myself like a big boy. I know, I can't help it. But anyways, we have a great guest, so let's get to the point with our guest today, Brandon Steiner. I can't wait. I'm excited for this one, so let's get to the point with Brandon.
Lifeflip Media, the voice of the warrior class. Are you a veteran or patriotic business owner, author, musician, public speaker, or entrepreneur? Are you ready to take the next step towards success? Then look no further than Lifeflip Media, the voice of the warrior class. Lifeflip Media is the #1 veteran-owned PR firm in America. We use our mission-oriented approach to secure advertising and media exposure for your business, your brand, and your products. It's time to let Lifeflip Media put you on the cutting edge of success. Lifeflip Media, the voice of the warrior class.
Welcome to the show, Brandon. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Everything's good. Not a complaint in me.
That's good. No complaints. Even during COVID-19, to not have complaints, that's a pretty good thing. I mean, we live in this COVID-19 world, which I feel that we either are happy or mad. Either way, we can't figure out what we are, but I'm usually pretty happy. And we have sports starting again. So, I mean, Major League Soccer's probably mad at me, and Premier League's probably mad at me, and I know their league's already started, but like, you know, the bigger sports, or as I say, the people who are in the inner ring at Disney have the really nice hotels at Disney, their sports are starting. So, yeah, I guess that's how we do it. So let's start with that little humor. What's your thoughts on people are really writing these NBA guys sitting there at their nice hotels, and some players, not all, have voiced their complaints about the quarantine food that they're being forced to eat, which is funny because I think Myers Leonard put it best when he was like, bro, you're a multimillionaire. You can afford to order food out and have it sent to you if you don't like what they're providing you. Quit whining and acting like a prima donna. So what do you think about that? Because people are really going after these athletes for their 2 cents about how they
Well,
feel about it.
the first thing I would say is, thank you. I feel like the athletes, the teams, and the leagues, I feel like they're very generous. I don't think we talk enough about the fact that, these we're asking them to go out of their comfort zone, go into a dangerous zone, any way you want to look at it. Most offices, most people aren't going in. And then we're asking them to remove themselves from their inner circle and their family for potentially a month to 2 to 3 months. So first thing I say is thank you. The second thing is, having been around athletes, and you and I were just talking about this, we've been around a lot of athletes. And what I would say is, I don't think it's that these guys are unable to order in. They probably don't know how to do that. They have everything done for them. They don't do a lot themselves. Like my wife always says to me, Brandon, if you were on an island all of a sudden by yourself for a week, you'd be dead. You don't know how to do anything. And I used to be do everything, growing up the way I grew up. But, it's hard to imagine when you're these guys. But, you go to the practice facility, there's food there, there's this there, there's 5 managers there to go get your food for you or whatever you need, your dry clean. Like, you don't do much. So now they're in a bubble and they don't have their inner workings people. They don't have those managers. They don't have the family members. So I give them a pass on all that stuff because I'm grateful. And I think that, I think we should be all more grateful for all these players that are going out, which I'm sure they, in their own mind, probably don't want to. And if you're in a hot zone, you know what I'm talking about. You don't want to be in a hot zone where potentially you're going to be sick and potentially, maybe drastically sick. So thank you. I say thank you to all those players. I disregard all those articles because, it's just much ado about nothing. We're going to be entertained. The NBA probably has the best scheme in this bubble that will probably actually watch the most of that sport than maybe any other sport, given the circumstances. So thank you. And if they're not happy with the food, they'll figure out how to order it and get it. Those guys are extremely figure out kind of guys. It may take them a while to adjust.
They do a good job. I'll give them that. I mean, the one thing I do love about sports now compared to years ago is how much access we have to the players on social media, where a lot of them are great on social. I mean, I know we were talking about Dame Lillard, CJ McCollum, LeBron. You got even JJ Watt, who I absolutely love. Social gives you a lot of insight into what's going on. So I bring up JJ Watt for a reason. I don't know if you saw his Insta or his tweets last night, but just like Aaron Rodgers, they're all talking a lot about the NFL start of the season. And JJ posted his chief complaints with what's going on, that the players haven't been talked to about any of the protocols as rookies report and free agents report, I believe, next week. And he's like, what are we doing here? He's like, again, we agreed to play and we have a breakdown again. And it's funny how we're seeing social media share so much of what we never saw before within the sports workings, because Major League Soccer shared a lot of and of course, Major League Baseball, that's a topic all by itself. But, let's stay to this. But what do you think about the change of that? Do you think someday in the next CBAs, they're going to be changing the ways that players can talk openly on social, sharing the ugly parts of CBAs and getting back to work?
I think they're going to try, but, the problem is that if anybody's learned anything over the last few years is that you can't try to partner up with people that are not your partners. It doesn't work. You can't get aligned with people that you're not aligned with and that that are going different directions and expect them to go the direction you want. And I think that it's inevitable. And I don't care. I know I'll get flack for this, but it's inevitable. The leagues that have good relationships with their players that are in partnership, true partnerships, meaning caps and revenue shares. Yeah. So as it goes up, everybody goes up. And if it goes down, everybody goes down, are doing well. And especially in adverse situations like this. The NBA is a true example. And even the WNBA, which is a little bit in the wrong direction there, paying these women way under and not really committed to the league. After this last collective bargaining agreement, there was a sign of good faith there, and hence the women have showed up. I guarantee you if that collective bargaining agreement didn't get straightened out where the women had an opportunity at least to make some decent money, that league would not be going this year. There's no question for the kind of money they were paying these women, which I don't even want to get on a WNBA tangent because it's pathetic. You talk about, Black Lives Matter and Time's Up. It's amazing how these things kind of float, pass, and then get forgotten. but I don't understand how the WNBA isn't just a much more effective and efficient top line league with the kind of players from all over the world playing in it. But it's crazy. So,
I mean, that's an interesting point you bring up. I mean, and I don't mind going on it. Obviously, I'm here in Oregon, so we're huge Sabrina fans who's now playing.
I mean, Oregon, you have TVs in Oregon and everything, right?
We do. We even moved up from VCRs to we are now running these cool things called DVDs. It's awesome. I mean, hopefully.
What are you guys going to do without Sabrina, though? Are you going to be all right? I mean, you're going to survive? Or...
It's hard. I mean, we can't even. I mean, if you know our sports world here, so of course, the Trailblazers, and then it's whatever goes on with the Ducks. Sorry, Beaver fans, but your teams haven't been relevant in a long time. I mean, you have Gary Payton and Brandon Cook come out of OSU, but that's about the only thing. But the Ducks are everything. Obviously,
you're right.
When you have Phil Knight as the best alumni you could ever have, and your team is like the poster child for changing uniforms every game. But it is interesting without sports here in Oregon, where like even the Blazers aren't here. Like, how are we all going to watch? Like I want to watch them play. I mean, it's just not the same. I mean, especially for a lot of us. I mean, being a 2-sport market or 3. I don't want to. Again, talking about women's sports, we have the Thorns here, women's soccer is huge. And you brought up the WNBA, which I absolutely love watching. These girls are great. I mean, Sabrina is the leading scorer in the NCAA, period. End of sentence. Not female. All. Like, period. Hard stop. She didn't even get to go play in March Madness, which, if you think about what she could have done there.
What a bummer.
I mean, and now, she plays for the Liberty, but you're right. And here's my thing. You talk about the bubble with the NBA. These guys are living it up. They're in the finest hotels Disney has to offer. They're living the good NBA life. They're not hurting. You could clearly see them. We just watched Dame's 30th birthday. It was just a couple days ago. Watching that happen on IG, and you're just like, well, they're all together. At least they're all together, enjoying the bubble together. And you're just like, wow. But you look at the WNBA, and they're forced to bring their kids. They don't have the same facilities that the NBA.
They should be in Vegas. I mean, let's just call it what it is.
Yeah.
They should be in Vegas, or they should be in. It's the same old story.
Yeah.
It's the same old story. And until the owners of these WNBA teams let other people own those teams. Because, look, if I owned an NBA team, I'd be worrying about the NBA team, not the WNBA team. Yeah. The WNBA team needs a lot of love, nurturing, somebody to get behind it and really grow it and develop it. But how are you doing that when you're trying to keep up with huge growth spurts that you have in the NBA with opportunities that we never even dreamt of? So I don't blame the owners of the NBA that also own WNBA teams. Yeah. I just blame them. Yeah. To let that go. That's not for you. Let somebody who wants to be entrepreneurial, and let's go get that league to where it needs to be. And just by them playing the IMG Academy, it's pathetic.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's the same old story. It's like the second-class uniforms. Yeah. They're playing in the G League uniforms. Like, really? Yep. Like, colleges, the women's teams at colleges have nice uniforms in the WNBA. And I just can't believe it. I said it to Adam Silver. I'm like, why aren't you getting involved with the uniforms? Of all people, women care about their uniforms and clothes. And they look good. I mean, why wouldn't you? These women are incredible. Their bodies, everything. Like, why wouldn't you show them off in a positive way? They should be in a first-class hotel. It's always a secondary story. Yeah. It's pathetic. It drives me crazy. That's why the league is not going and growing. Yeah. And it's another sad story. But they should be in Vegas. What was so hard to figure out? And there was probably 5 other cities bidding on it. You could have had them in Indianapolis. You could have had them in 5 other places.
Oh, yeah. It doesn't make sense to me. And it's funny you say that because, again, we'll go back to Sabrina. You're talking about an athlete who's lived in Nike her entire life. I mean, and it wasn't just rocking Nike by playing for the Ducks. Her unfortunate mentor who passed this year, the great Kobe Bryant, she's always rocked Mamba gear. And to see her, I made that comment I have a almost 16-year-old, and we were watching, she follows Sabrina. Sabrina's like a role model to so many young women. And I was like, she asked me, she's like, because she wants to pursue journalism. She's like, Dad, why is no one stepping up and making them look like they're real basketball players? They're almost like, oh, here you go. And I was like, this is what you're putting them in. They look like you're like an 8th grade, Catholic school team right now is playing. I'm like, that's the Liberty's jerseys they're rocking. They look like they're in some bad high school gym. And then I'm looking at what the guys have, and I'm like, oh, you guys are playing on your own courts. You're shooting on these fine courts and these nice in a convention center where everything is there. I mean, you're watching the guys drop their water bottles and somebody runs over and picks it up. And in the WNBA, they're walking over like we did in high school. Put your water bottle down.
Doing their laundry,
Yeah.
seeing their little dorm rooms.
Right? It's like...
By the way, where's the Sabrina sneaker? Oh, we signed Sabrina this big Nike deal. Where's the Sabrina sneaker?
I know, we're waiting.
Where is it?
I don't know.
It's like, I wish they would just, sometimes not everything has to be through the roof sales to make a point. And not everything has to be this incredible reoccurring revenue growth model. Can't we sometimes just do something because it's the right thing to do? Where's the Diana Taurasi sneaker?
Right? Where's all
my
these...
favorite player, by the way. My favorite basketball player of all time.
She's awesome. She gave a great speech at Kobe's funeral, too. I mean, which I
did a
thought
great
was
job.
great how many WNBA folks spoke at Kobe's funeral, because Kobe was that guy. I mean, especially with having, being a father of girls, I totally love everything Kobe did. But to see these WNBA, and even again, we're going to go back, my girl Sabrina, she was there again, right? And I think people had no idea who she was, and you're like, you don't understand. I mean, and then here in Beaverton, we had this, I forget her name, unfortunately. She went to my daughter's high school. She just graduated. She's got a full ride to Stanford. She is tall. And her mentor, who was here quite often, was just the Currys. Just having Steph show up, when he's not playing and he's showing up, and she's like at all his camps. And, Seth was just here as a Blazer last season when we made our deep run into the playoffs. And it's like that's why your point when you talked about the WA, it's a hard point with me, because I'm like, these women have incredible mentors, Steph Curry, freaking Kobe Bryant, and we're like, oh, by the way, the G League guys get Nike jerseys, and you're gonna get the what's in the back rung at Walmart. We're gonna throw that on you. Go enjoy that, and make sure you wash it too between practice, because we're not gonna provide you anybody to wash it.
I want to be the commissioner of the WNBA. I've asked Adam Silver, and I was really trying before they had hired this new commissioner, which I'm not against, and I think she's a very distinguished, accomplished businesswoman. Yeah. But they didn't want to hire a man, and I'm like, you need a promoter. Mm-hmm. You need a marketer. The business part of it's buttoned up. It's going to be driven by excitement, promotion, and it's just amazing that I couldn't get myself, in the middle of that mix. So I was ready to give up this whole thing for that. That's how much I enjoy the WNBA and think potential.
Wow, look at you. I mean, you're the great Brandon Steiner. I mean, as a sports guy, I was like thrilled when my team said, do you want to interview? I was like, yeah, you don't even need to finish that sentence. Absolutely. I mean, if you are a sports nut and work in the sports world, especially in the New York media, I mean, you got to think about who you work with. And I'm looking over your shoulder, and yes, I grew up a Bulls fan, but you got that Ewing jersey behind you. So I always, and that Michael Jordan and Last Dance really went on there. But I know you love Mike, because I think you're the only person I know who has a testimonial on their website that features Michael Jordan. I'm like,
no, I'm the only guy that beat Michael Jordan and kicked him off the court.
Oh.
At his camp in Vegas.
Did you really?
I got to tell you, everything you saw in that Last Dance, Michael is just amazing. I thought it was very generous of him to, just open up. And I love what he's doing now. It always says, it's never too late to be the person you want to be. And I love that he's opened up and let everybody in on this secret assassinational, hostile, competitive spirit. Like everybody said he was competitive, but people really don't understand. When you get into the detail, it's just amazing. And I think that's great for the kids to really learn what it takes to be that kind of extraordinary, right? Yep. And then on top of that, this is a guy who's marketed himself amazingly well. I have a great relationship with Falk, where we on the Falk board, Falk School at Syracuse. So I'm the chair of his board. And so we have a great relationship. And we're always talking about stories about how certain things fell into place. And Michael's a great story that we should all be looking at a lot more closer and learn from.
Oh, you hit the nail on the head. I am a diehard Jordan fan. As I say this in my office, I'm sure you have way more really cool sports memorabilia than I do, but I actually found my childhood poster that I grew up with, which was the Wings Nike poster that Jordan did way back in the day. I have that, and my kids know there's two things I love in the world. The number two, for the great Derek Jeter, who also gave you an amazing testimonial. I just love that dude. And of course, MJ, growing up with MJ. I remember living in Orlando when I was younger, and I know I'm interviewing you and telling you my story, but hey.
I love it.
But I was a ball boy for the Orlando Magic, and being able to meet Michael Jordan, I remember MJ throwing his socks out, like throwing them out to the crowd, and people wanted those. Like, that's how Jordan was. I explained to my son, he's 13, like, Jordan was bigger than LeBron. Like, Jordan in his heyday was like a Beatle. Like, and then you watch,
it's Muhammad Ali level.
yeah, completely. Then you see Last Dance, and it really opened everybody's eyes up, because then you see the Worm, right? I love Rodman, and we've done some work with Dennis. But to see that day that he took 3 games off to go to Vegas, and he's walking around with a film crew driving a Harley with a beer in his hand, you're like,
Can you imagine that Phil Jackson let him do that?
right?
By the way, were you in Orlando when Doc Rivers was there and Tracy McGrady, or?
No, this was Nick Anderson. This was first year, so Nick Anderson, Sam Vincent, Scott Skiles.
What a three-point shooter Nick was, huh?
Oh,
Wow.
Nick was amazing. And Scotty Skiles, I think, still holds the assist record for a game. I mean, he was an interest. I mean, he didn't, even as a point guard in the league, he looked more like a coach, and I'm glad he became one. But who was the coach? Lucas, I believe, was the coach that year. We were the stepstones of everything. I mean, it's an interesting team, but growing up, getting to watch the Admiral, Magic Johnson, I mean, just that good. I mean, that's what the Last Dance to me was seeing all these great teams going through there and seeing MJ's real, I mean, being here in Portland, of course, we were heavily picked on because obviously he played our team and destroyed him. And his thoughts on Clyde Drexler, how mad it made people that they were comparing him just slightly to Clyde. He was like, I'm going to destroy him. And you're just like, oh, Jesus.
But anybody that's on a high level of competitiveness that wants to be extraordinary knows you have to play those games.
Yeah.
I would always play those games in my head about my competitors, that they're trying to put me out of business. They're trying to beat me. They say that I'm no good. They're going to get me the next time. You know, you always are going to show them. And, you know, I remember one of my biggest competitors saying to me, he goes, you know, we sat down once, had lunch after many, many years of competing. He says, you know, Brandon, like, my biggest problem with you is that you always have to win. You never let anybody else win. I'm like, that's not a problem for me. Like, I'm not here to give you a couple just because I feel sorry for you.
Yep.
I'm going to beat you to a pulp every time, twice on Sunday.
Yep.
But, you know, it was just funny. He actually came out. He goes, you always have to win.
But
you always had to win every – everyone's supposed to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Mark Cuban said. Mark Cuban said treat every day like somebody is behind you, staying up 24 hours a day to defeat you. I live by that motto. We have it actually in our office. It's something that I swear by because I will not be beat. I will not be destroyed. I mean, somebody made a comment on our show, one of our live shows, where they were like, Eric, you look like you don't sleep a lot. And I'm like, I probably don't, because I love what we do, and I'm constantly afraid. Not afraid, I just don't want to lose. And because of that, my victory march will always continue on, because that Marine in me will not quit. And it's like, nope, we're the tip of the spear. We're going to charge the hill. Even creating the show and moving it through and getting amazing folks like you that a lot of people will be like, oh my God, how do you get, you know, Brandon Steiner at the same time getting Montel Williams or, you know, 500 other, you know, amazing folks that we get to talk to. They're like, wow, we get to talk to another amazing person. I mean, Brandon, you're pretty amazing.
I think about the fear of failure, but I think about the high level of non-acceptance.
Yeah.
Is what drives me. It's not so much about failing or succeeding as much as I'm not okay where I'm at. And that's what drives me. I don't get myself all worked up about the excuses and I call it a plum, you know, poor little me, you know. I think about just, I'm not accepting this, and now what am I going to do about it? And I get into a high level of non-acceptance.
But before you go, let's talk about sports as a whole. How do you think we're going to recover from COVID-19 in the sports world? I mean, I know they try to make sports very political now. I know the last 4 years it's been very political. Colin Kaepernick. And Cap wasn't even the first. I mean, to me, Tebow was more of the first because he was kneeling for prayer. And I know Nate Boyer. I've spoke to Nate Boyer several times. Nate's the one who told Cap to kneel, and he gave the reason as Knights knelt as an honor. And then as a veteran, we are always brought into this argument with the kneeling all over the place. They're like, it's disrespectful to veterans and military. We're like, bro, don't bring us into this because we don't feel that way. Like, that flag, I mean, if people can burn it and step on it and do all these things they want, we know what the Constitution is because we swear our oath to it. So I always laugh when people bring it. But I mean, Do you think sports will now be stuck in politics, or do you think we'll eventually get back to watching sports and enjoying it and not be a political movement?
No, I mean, I get it now about the whole kneeling thing, and I'm actually sorry I didn't get it sooner, but because really, there's such a high level of frustration, and there's such a correction that's needed. I mean, what else are you going to do other than to do something to upset somebody? I always say sometimes you got to make a bigger mess in order to clean it up. And so, I think that the athletes realize that they've got a voice. And I think they've got to learn how to demonstrate that voice even more effectively and efficiently. Knee aside, I mean, I think the knee actually now makes sense to me. And I think anybody who really can think clearly understands that it's no disrespect to the flag and to the military. We all love and respect our military. I really do believe that. But I do think that the players need to really learn how to collaborate better, because I think they have a bigger voice. Then I think they're playing small. I think the knee is small, even though it sends a huge message. But, I think when you think about the people that they work for and the level of their success and wealth, when I talk about the amount of people that will live and die with anything they say and do, I think they need to get more on the same page and make better. They have the best chance, actually, of making a movement without protesting, without demonstrating. But they really do have a chance to make a difference when they're all on the same page, at least a good amount of them. And I think maybe they walk away from all this and realize when you look at all their platforms and who they work for, if they took a little time to get together with owners and even TV stations and getting them on board, you'd be surprised how strong that is. And I'd like to see them do something that's more strategy-wise. That's what these PAs, the player associations are supposed to be doing. Yeah. Not just negotiating to try to get every last dollar, which I get, that's part of their job, but they should be fighting and scrapping to get the messages clear and trying to get connected with other associations so that they're even more stronger when they want to send a message. Not arguing what they're putting on the back of a jersey or this or that, but really trying to figure out how to go put resources and money and messages together so that they're powerful and make a difference, particularly with the youth. Because when you think about change, there is no better and bigger way to make change than by attacking young people and educating them and really bringing them into the fold and really letting them know that they matter. And that's where the money and energy should be going as one of the certainly one of the bigger buckets in my mind. Like, I'm donating money to United Negro College Fund, mainly because I'm not really quite sure what else I should do as a 60-year-old white Jewish guy. And, I know there's more to be done with, especially with prison reform and stuff like that. But, I think the athletes are playing small. I don't think they realize that how much more of a voice and a bigger voice that they have if they can get together and get on the same page.
Yeah, you're right. I love that you said that, because that's true. I mean, and there's been a lot of talk. I mean, athletes have come out and all. Yeah, you brought up being, an over 60-year-old Jewish man, and you've seen some athletes and celebrities really run their mouths in the last few days. I mean, and the kneeling thing's still hot. I mean, there is some big names in sports media in New York City that they're on their Twitter going off about kneeling and they won't watch the NFL. And I'm like, yeah, right. Everybody watches the NFL. All these people who say they won't watch because of kneeling, they still watch because the NFL's doing it.
I think all of this, I think Barkley had it right. I think all of this is just smoke. And we got to get down to the core of the issue. We got to get into prison reform. We got to go find out about a whole bunch of people that have been, basically dealt with unjustly. Gets me sick when I see some of the things that have happened to minorities as far as them being jailed for way more than what they should have been jailed for, even at all. Yeah, which drives me crazy. And then I just hate all the segregation going on in our schools. I think every kid should have a top-notch education and an opportunity to have one. And I see everybody who has money, they can send their kids to private schools, better schools. All the kids should be going to the best schools. There's a minority kid that's 3 years old that's just as smart as my kid, who's a white Jewish kid. I just don't get all that. That's where we should be putting our energy and money into, is building up our schools, especially the elementary schools in urban, Chicago, New York, LA. Build those up, put money into it, pay teachers better. So teachers don't want to only go to the private schools and to the rich neighborhoods. That's the issue.
You're right.
Then you're giving all those kids a chance. And if some make it, they make it. If some they don't, they don't. But they've all had a chance. Yeah. but you're putting them in these schools that have no money, and a lot of them are just going to these schools just to eat. Yeah. I mean, I can get on this thing forever and a day, but what I love is the power of sports these days, and I love the fact that the athletes, I've been in this business for 35 years, and I really love the accountability that the athletes have, most of them. I think they realize they're not sitting there going, I'm not a role model, I just want to play. They understand the accountability, and I think a lot of them want to do something. I think there's a little more leadership needed, but there's a lot more leadership now than there was 20 years ago. You have a LeBron speaking up on a lot of issues, a Chris Paul. You have a J.J. Watt. I mean, you have players speaking up more now, where 20 years ago you never had that. So, it's progress.
Yeah. I mean, you look at Scottie Pippen, what he was complaining about in Last Dance, and now you have players actually coming out and open saying it, where back in those times, because I was obviously very young, I had no idea Scottie was whining, any of that was going on in Scottie's world. But now you saw it, Last Dance opened up a lot of that. But you're right. Before you go, I got to tell you, because I know you're a Syracuse man, we inherited an amazing NBA basketball player here in Portland this season after he was bounced from the league for a year. I know he's a Syracuse man and was a Knick, but the great Melo, we actually love him here. And he looks great. He lost a lot of weight and kind of got fit during the COVID. He looks like that kid who was a sniper. I mean, he's amazing still when he showed up, watching him, and never actually getting to follow Melo being a West Coast sports guy. You don't see Melo a lot, obviously, when he was a Nugget, but when he played for the Knicks, well, I mean, it's the Knicks, and it was Melo. But he got bounced out of there, and he's on our team. He has turned out to be a great player. There's a guy who I think really, you talk about second chances. We talked about MJ. Melo's another one. He's a stand-up guy, does amazing stuff for the community, and he's really been a spokesman for Black Lives Matter and equality. I've loved him coming out and talking about it. He's so approachable here in Portland, and everybody, when he was coming here, was just trashing this dude. Like, oh, he was a head case in New York. I'm like, was he? Or is New York media the worst place in the world to ever go into a slump?
First of all, listen, I think Melo knew what he was getting into when he came to New York. It didn't work out because, all these teams, especially basketball, it's who you play with and the style that you play with matching up to your own game. I always thought a guy like Melo there should have been a little bit of a different game plan, but he was always approachable in New York. I mean, listen, Melo walks on water with me, 2003, one of the greatest Syracuse players of all time. And I've met him a bunch of times. He's a good dude. Yeah. What I love about Melo, and I do watch him very carefully and closely wherever he's playing, is, I see him playing a little differently. I see his defensive upgraded a little bit. I see him setting picks. Those are things that maybe were a little questionable back in New York. Playing a role and being okay with it. As it turns out, you had some injuries, so you even got more minutes. Isn't that how life always works out? I think sometimes you have to blow something up in order to make room for the next thing. And I really think he deserves to end his career the way it's ending, with a more positive note. And if that team was all healthy, it would have been a very dangerous team when you think about it. I mean, it is an electric team. So I'm happy for him. I mean, he deserves it. He's a Hall of Famer. The guy is a perennial sniper. I mean, there's nobody who could score the ball better. I mean, he's just amazing. So,
and we love
unfortunately, New York
the
didn't
head
appreciate
thing.
it.
We're all with the three to the head. I mean, seeing that in our stadium, our arena was awesome. Hey, and don't
we should have appreciated him more, man. We should have, but we didn't hear.
He's just. I mean, it's great to see him here, but we've had that. Even Rodney Hood coming here it's been great to see these guys who played in high-level places and they find the right home. And again, it goes back to when we started this conversation offline talking about the great Dame Lillard. I think people sleep on Dame Lillard, and they're finally seeing he is one of the top players in the NBA, not just because of how he is on the court as just being Dame, as a leader, and all the players in the league respect him, because my son, we've watched some heated firefights between him, Russell Westbrook, and Dame's just like, dude, we're friends off the court, but are we supposed to be hugging it out on the court? You're not my homie.
I love it. I love those games, and I stay up. I got my toothpicks on, keep my eyes open, because they're late games, but those are just great they're like schoolyard games on steroids.
Oh, and he'll just pull it from anywhere. And him versus Steph Curry, I mean, everybody talks so much, but these guys are great. So it's good to see, going back to Melo, I'm so happy to see him happy, because him running up and down the court, we went to this fan fest for our season ticket holders, and he was right there, and he was playing with the crowd who was right behind him. Everybody was like, oh, he's not going to be that way. He's like, they pawn him off like he's some hoity-toity NBA player who does it. But here in Portland, everybody knows our fan base. We're rabid NBA fans because it's really all we have. No offense to the Timbers and the Thorns, but the Blazers are all we have. It's like, we love you, and if you're here, we're going to cheer for you like an idiot. I mean, we even like Mario, your guy Super Mario that the Knicks sent to us. Thanks you for that one. But, we get Mario. I mean, we all treat these guys like kings, and, I mean, Melo was such a good, he's firing his headband into the crowd, smiling, playing around, and just, and he goes, I think he finally has a point guard that he really gets along with because he lets Dame kind of run the show. But Dame with CJ and him, they all listen. And even Whiteside has kind of, who's always been a kind of a head case in the NBA, he really had to step up. Melo's yelling at him under the hoop. It's my effing ball. You could hear it, which was great in the stadium. You could hear Melo go for rebounds over Whiteside, who's much taller than him. And he's like, I'm getting the ball. Get out of here. Get down the court. I'm like, dang, Melo, you just show up like they're missing. But now, hey, we got 3 7-footers now going into this bubble season. So I'm hoping that benefits us. And it looks pretty good.
Let's hope so, man. Let's hope so.
That's a good team. But that Laker team scares me because Bronny and his crew, they look like they also – everybody looks like they hit the gym. I mean, the NBA guys, they look like –
Well, you got the best practice facility maybe in the NBA. That's a minor issue, but true.
Just minor. But anyways, Brandon, I love having you on. I could talk sports with you. We're probably driving people nuts with our sports talk. We're just going to go. But
well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And, I'm not with Steiner anymore, so you go to Collectible Exchange. By the way, I'm giving away my book for free to all your listeners.
Sweet.
Anybody just goes to Collectible Exchange through August 30th can get my book for free, any one of the 3.
I'll be doing that right when we're done here. But that's awesome that you have your collectibles. So that's all your collectibles, so we can just go there and.
No, it's really it's like a form of eBay. So anybody who has any collectibles, you now have a safe, authentic place to put your collectibles. It's a marketplace. I have about 65,000 items on there. So it's just me collaborating with all the collectors around the planet, and people are just putting their stuff up, and I'm guiding them to what things are worth and trying to get people things what they want, as opposed to having to go to a specific collectible company to get something that's been kind of over manufactured.
Oh, that's awesome. That's super cool because that's what we need. I mean, that's awesome. So anyways, Brandon Steiner, everybody go check out his site. You can get his book for free. That's cool. You're the first person to give anything away on our show. We love it. And it's from you, so that's even better. So go check out.
And I sign them.
Oh, you do? Well, I'm for sure doing it right now.
Yeah.
Make sure you spell my name with a C. So thanks for joining us today, Brandon. Everybody else will be back right after this message. Thank you for watching this episode of To The Point. As always, I'm your host, Eric Mitchell, and we thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, if you know someone that we should be interviewing on our show, or you'd like to be a guest on our show, feel free to email us at hello@tothepointtv.com. We'd love to have you as a guest on our show. Please go ahead and feel free to follow us on Twitter at To The Point TV. We'd love to see you on Twitter. Also, make sure to follow us on Instagram. We're huge fans of Instagram here at To The Point. So give us a follow at To The Point and a like and a share so you can see the guests that are coming up on IG. And that is at To The Point TV. It's not .com. It's just at To The Point TV. So confusing with all these names taken. And also, if you're watching this on YouTube, you know what we're going to get ready to go. But before you do that, if you're a fan of Facebook and you spend a lot of time on there, go give our Facebook page a like and a follow and share it with your friends. And keep in mind, if you can't get to your YouTube, you can always watch us live at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern weekdays. We appreciate to see you there. And as always, my favorite peeps, you're here on the YouTube, and we love you here on YouTube. So make sure that you drop in and you can see every episode and never miss an episode, right? Because if you smash that subscribe button, give it a like, and flick that bell, you flick that bell, you get notified before everyone else when we drop the latest episode or subscription. And as a reminder, all of our segments and shows go live weekdays at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. So you will be the first to catch them, and you don't want to miss them. Go check out our library. They are broken down by hashtags, so you will never miss an episode. On behalf of our entire team here at To The Point, we want to thank you for tuning in, because if it wasn't for viewers like you, we wouldn't have a show. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, I'm your host, Eric Mitchell. Be safe, be strong, be smart, and God bless America.